We are talking about our friends over at MeUndies. MeUndies is my favorite underwear. I own 4 pairs now, and I love them. I truly do. And also, MeUndies is the perfect holiday gift. You can do matching sets for couples, families, or even friend groups. Knock out all your holiday gifting needs today with MeUndies. To get exclusive holiday deals up to 50% off, go to MeUndies.com/SoBad and enter promo code SOBAD, SOBAD. That's MeUndies.com/SoBad, promo code SOBAD for up to 50% off. Howdy, folks. Welcome to So Bad It's Good. This is your pal Ryan, and this is your Friday episode. You have made it once again to the end of the week. Let us party. Let us celebrate. And yeah, we'll be doing a Real Housewives of Orange County reunion part 1 recap. But I still think, even though this is a horrible season, we're still going to have fun. We're still going to celebrate. We're going to dance like nobody's watching. How was your Thursday, folks? Was it okay? Man, I'm still thinking about that Salt Lake City episode. I had so much fun doing that recap. I can't stop thinking about him. And then I've said, it's like almost detrimental to OC that Salt Lake is on at the same, like Potomac doesn't have this problem. You know, Potomac is pretty entertaining this season, I feel like, not up there with Salt Lake, but still entertaining. Orange County is just not entertaining. I get very, it's just tense. And the way, I mean, like, listen, I try to be nice or nicer in my older age, and I do respect that Tamara is still in the game all this time and that she has a very successful podcast. She's got her CBD line. She's got these different revenue streams. And from a business acumen standpoint, I think that's nothing to... You know, you got to give her credit for that, because I know how much work goes into building something, anything. And you see with a lot of housewives, they'll try to build something and it doesn't work. So I got to give her credit for that. But my God, even in this reunion, she is so repugnant, and the way, and just the faces she was making at Shannon, it made no sense to me at all. Just like her behavior this season made no sense to me for many of the things that she did. It was just very frustrating. And I don't know if Tamara went in there just really nervous and this is how her behavior exhibited because she was nervous. I'm still so curious if Tamara is a completely different person off screen. And the Katie Janela thing even is so odd to me for so many reasons. But one of those reasons is that they are treating Katie Janela. I mean, especially Emily seems like she has a very big vendetta against Katie. Just the way she would look at Katie, that I was like, what piece of information does the audience not have? Because it doesn't add up. And how would you not be even more disgusted with Tamara and the way she acts, especially on this show? How would you not be more upset at her than you are with Katie? And so once again, the audience, or just me, who is the audience, I'm left confused. I'm like, why? Wait, why? What is going on? Can somebody come in and explain all of these relationships? Because they don't. It's just darkness. It is darkness. Now, I was watching this with Rebecca, and, you know, she was begrudgingly watching it, but we were eating dinner, so she kind of had to watch it. And we were talking, and, you know, she has the same feeling that I do. But we also talked about that OC has never been... I mean, there were earlier seasons, you know, Vicky and the family van and certain scenes that were really ridiculous and fun. But the OC has never been a fun show. It's always been kind of dark in a sense. I mean, think about Brooks with the cancer scam. Think about a lot of the storylines. There's not a lot of fun. You know, there's like fun elements, but overall you're like, it's some pretty dark ladies. Whereas Salt Lake is hysterically funny. The Potomac ladies know how to, you know, with the verbiage that they use, it's hysterical repartee. And OC, it's, I don't know. So this first part of the reunion I thought was interesting in aspects, but very frustrating in others. And it's one of those things where like, God, they're going to drag this out for 2 more weeks. Just give it to us all now, please. What are we even doing? Just let's burn through these episodes. So yeah, those are some opening statements. But anyways, let's get into it. We're going to do a couple other news stories before we get into OC, just so I don't completely have to bang my head up against this computer just talking about OC. So All's Fair, the Kim Kardashian-led Hulu show, the first 3 episodes are out right now. I still have not watched all 3 episodes. I am going to watch the other 2 this weekend, but it has been getting savaged in the press. At one point, it had a 0% on Rotten Tomatoes. I was waiting for the negative score on Rotten Tomatoes, which means right when it came out, there was only negative reviews of it out there. Now, I don't think that this show was designed to be rage bait, but it does make And Just Like That look like Citizen Kane. You're like, I miss the good writing of And Just Like That. But I will say, the first episode that I saw, it's not bad. I mean, it's an overpowering soundtrack, kind of like that they use in Selling Sunset, except these are songs that you recognize. The visual imagery is there. You've got these amazing actors, I mean, mainly actresses that you just really respect and adore. And then you have Kim. And that's the part where I think a lot of people feel frustration, because I don't think at this point she's a very good actor. And I think the frustration on top of that goes to a lot of people where you're like, and by the way, I'm not frustrated personally because I was never a female actor, but it's got to be very frustrating to be like, why do you get to do this? You know, I mean, to be kind of snobbish and elitist, why do you get to do that? Now, obviously, the answer is because she's one of the most successful one of the most successful, what do we call her? Let's call her a content creator. One of the most successful content creators out there. Just in terms financially, in terms of social media, one of the first influencers there was out there. But having said all that, that doesn't mean that you have every talent known to man. And I just don't think acting is one of Kim's talents. Some people just don't have that ability. It's a very hard thing. And I think Kim has looked very stunning in imagery. You know, a photograph, a still image. That is where the power of Kim Kardashian, you know, sometimes she's been able to lean into. But when you put her up against Naomi Watts or Glenn Close or Niecy Nash, it is really hard to compete. And Kim will just end up looking sometimes like an automaton, like a robot. And that can be frustrating. Now, that's only the first episode. Maybe her performance gets better. But then again, performance getting better, the writing isn't like the strongest thing I've seen ever. Now, listen, this reminds me a little bit of an earlier Ryan Murphy show, Nip Tuck. Now, if you don't remember Nip Tuck, I believe it was an FX show. It was kitschy, it was dark, it was funny, and the performances were great. It reminds me of a little bit more of Nip Tuck than, say, one of the more elite Ryan Murphy shows. But I did worry when all of the hate reviews came out that I was like, well, by the way, I already think this show has gotten picked up for a second season. They just haven't announced it to us. And the amount of people talking about it, even if they're talking about it in a shitty way, that's still people talking about things. And that's why the rage bait conversation can kind of flourish when it comes to shows like this. The one thing that I think has worked. I'm going to have a stroke. The one thing I think this show has working against it is that it's got to cost a lot to make this show. Because I think all of these women are getting paid a lot of money to do this. And good. You know how much male actors make? I hope Glenn Close is making a pretty penny. I hope Naomi Watts is making her yearly nut just on this show. I mean, yes, but I think it's cost a lot of money to produce this show. And so that might kind of come into play at a certain point. But I think you will definitely get a second season of this show. And I watched the Kardashians reality show on Hulu, and I watched today's episode. And what I will say, there's a lot of people out there watching this and actually enjoying it. Maritza actually liked it. Said she was watching it with her mom, and she said, you know what? I kind of like this. And I didn't mind the first episode, but you have to really look past that Kim gives nothing in her scenes. But it's not like it's hard writing, you know? It's not that it's like, oh, she didn't land that emotionally intense bawling scene. Maybe that's in the second or third episode, but it's like not really hard. So it's it's very noticeable, but it's not noticeable in a way of like, she just didn't make, like I don't believe that somebody in her family died. Like, no, none of that. I think the writing is probably geared specifically towards her and whatever strengths that she has on screen. But I think it automatically will get a second season. And watching the Kardashians reality show, they show a lot of behind the scenes stuff. And what I will say is that it looks like all these actors are having a great time. It looks like Glenn Close, Sarah Paulson looks like she's getting along with Kim. Great. And it's always funny that I was sitting there going, well, even if it's a horrible show, at least they all had fun. They look like they're having a good time. They are having a great time with each other. And I will say, having grown up around actors and been around them, actors, we are a very weird and curious lot. But also, we were a very accepting lot. And, we don't look down on a lot of other actors when you're all trying to do something. And so I'm like, they're not treating Kim poorly. And by the way, Kim's one of the executive producers on this show. So she's like part of the people that are signing the paychecks for all these actresses. So yeah, they're all getting along. But just, it's like, I was like, maybe that's the overall thesis of this show is that, well, at least everybody's having a good time while filming it, even if the majority of the audience is disliking it. So it is yet to be seen, but I just wanted to mention, I'm sure I'll read some of the reviews because some of these reviews, people were like Shakespeare and how they were savaging this show and tearing it apart. Like it was like Emily looking at Katie Janela. It was like Tamra acting to Shannon. It was just like vicious. But I'll probably read some of those on Monday on the Pop Culture Roundup because it did make me giggle in how savage some of these reviews are. Have you watched this show? Are you going to watch this show? And if you have watched this show, do you like it? Okay, so that's all's fair. Let's see. Today was actually a pretty good day. I got sleep finally. I got a solid 7 hours last night, which for me, that is huge. So I feel like an actual human being, which was exciting. And I got to catch up on my shows. On Hulu, I've been loving the Murdoch show with Patricia Arquette. I really, really love it. And this episode was very sad and intense. So I got to watch that. I watched the Kardashians. I did some work and then I went on a 5-mile hike in the neighborhood. But we're in a hilly neighborhood. So it's kind of tough because I still don't have my car. I'm picking up my car tomorrow. I'll have a brand new back bumper. So I'm going to be a whole new person, you guys. I'm going to be driving to BravoCon. So that would be pretty embarrassing if I was driving without a bumper, but very fitting. If you know me. Also, I wanted to wish a happy birthday to Sandra Fryer, who I work with. She's amazing. Her birthday was 2 days ago, and I kept forgetting to say happy birthday on the show. So happy birthday, Sandra. We love you. Also on my Instagram stories, I put up the link if you want to come to the meetup at BravoCon. If you're going to BravoCon next Saturday, 6 p.m. Pacific Standard Time at the Hard Rock Cafe, baby, right before Amy Phillips' Cabaret show. And it's only going to be an hour plus meetup. So you can still have the whole night ahead of you after the meetup or come watch Cabaret with us. Amy Phillips puts on a hell of a show. But if you can't tell, I am just so excited for BravoCon. Okay, let's talk briefly about what to watch this weekend. There are tons of things out there to watch. I just watched the Selling Sunset reunion, which came out yesterday. And by God, Netflix does not know how to do a reunion to save their life. Netflix, if you're listening, I'm so sorry. The Love is Blind reunion that was horrible. I was watching somebody teach somebody how to play basketball, I feel like, during that reunion. It just, and those Love is Blind seasons, they just come and go and you watch them and I enjoyed it. And then they just kind of seem very disposable. You forget about it immediately, or at least I do. And so this next season, which I believe they're going to shoot one in Philadelphia, which is wild, they need to really kind of figure out where they're going in the Love is Blind universe. But Selling Sunset, it is such a weird show. It is so unrealistic under the guise of realism. But then the reunion, we are talking about our friends over at MeUndies. MeUndies is my favorite underwear. I own 4 pairs now, and I love them. I truly do. And also, MeUndies is the perfect holiday gift. You can do matching sets for couples, families, or even friend groups. There's something weirdly magical about matching outfits during the holidays. And MeUndies has taken that to the next level with their Match Me collection. Whether it's matching undies with your partner, coordinating PJs for the family photo, or getting festive with your friend group, MeUndies makes it fun, easy, and ridiculously cozy. Their holiday prints are adorable, their fabric is next level soft, and the best part, you'll actually want to be caught in matching loungewear all season long. MeUndies is the go-to for unbelievably soft underwear and loungewear made from ultra modal. That's fancy speak for cloud-level comfort. We're talking over 30 million pairs sold, 90,000 five-star reviews, and a problem-free philosophy. That means if you don't love your first pair, it is on them. So, knock out all your holiday gifting needs today with MeUndies. To get exclusive holiday deals up to 50% off, go to MeUndies.com/SoBad and enter promo code SOBAD, SOBAD. That's MeUndies.com/SoBad, promo code SOBAD for up to 50% off. Was another just weird showing. Like Tan France, the host, who I like, it just makes you really appreciate Andy Cohen and his reunions. And listen, Andy wasn't always the best. I was watching the Real Housewives of New York reunion season 1, which we covered on the Patreon, and it was okay, but it's like nothing where like Andy Cohen now is a seasoned veteran of reunions. So it was weird because there are so many fights that they could have talked about on the reunion that they kept off or they edited out in terms of Chrishell and Emma or Bree and Chrishell. And so we're only getting half the story. So it's a very frustrating watch. And I felt like every time the reunion would start to get good, it would like cut away and it would just be ridiculous. And I just thought, well, is it because these people are so affected, not by television, but just by their LA lifestyles in a sense and a certain way of living? And also the thing with Selling Sunset, all of these houses, they just look so antiseptic. I would never want to, like, if I could live in any of these houses for free, but I would never want to spend money on any of these houses because none of them have personality. Yes, they have the awesome backsplash and the water feature and a beautiful view, but they all just seem so robotic. They seem just so like, how could you ever live in these places? Where would I keep my reality show museum in any of these houses? Like, you're just like, you never get the sense that you could actually build a life, a normal life in any of these places. And I think that's what also the reunion itself was, but if you've been watching Selling Sunset, that is out there, the reunion. Now, this weekend on Netflix, we have the premiere of Guillermo del Toro's Frankenstein movie with Jacob Elordi as Frankenstein, which is like, yeah, when are we going to start casting ugly people as Frankenstein? Like, didn't Boris Karloff back in the day play Frankenstein? He fit the Frankenstein role. Jacob Elordi is a fucking, he's like a 6'6" model? Like, Frankenstein's supposed to have, like, six-pack abs? My God. All the ugly actors are out there. Like, this guy is stealing our parts now. Jacob Elordi? But I'm actually excited to see this because Guillermo del Toro is a fantastic, fantastic director. So that comes out. If you have Disney Plus and you are a superhero guy or girl like myself, you have the Fantastic Four First Steps hits Disney Plus. I did not see this in the theaters, but I will check this out. That is over there on Disney Plus. Now, this is one I'm really excited to see. It's called Pluribus. It's on Apple TV. And it's from Breaking Bad and Better Call Saul's creator, Vince Gilligan. And it stars Rhea Seehorn, who was the female lead on Better Call Saul. She's a fantastic actor. And it is supposed to be amazing. It's kind of like a mystery sci-fi series it's being described as. But some of the early reviews are saying this is better than Severance. It's a little bit of like a Twilight Zone. And the logline says that Rhea Seehorn plays the most miserable person on earth. And it's like, what did the most miserable person on earth had to save the world? Which is a lot of gray area. That doesn't get me knowing what the show is about, but I was like, yeah, I am intrigued. And anything that Vince Gilligan creates, I am seated for. So I'm really excited to check that out. And the more I read about this next show, I'm kind of more and more intrigued. It's on Netflix as well. It's called Death by Lightning, and it's a limited series starring actors Michael Shannon and Matthew McFadden, who won an Emmy for his work on Succession. And it's about Andrew Garfield's brief presidency. And in the description of this, it says, assassination can no more be guarded against than death by lightning. And that's where it gets the show's title. James Garfield wrote 2 weeks after his unprecedented ascension to the presidency of the United States. His words would come to have tragic significance. Less than a year later, Garfield was dead, his term in office cut short by an assassin's bullet. And so this is a limited series about him. And I don't really know a lot about most of the presidents. I don't know anything really about Andrew Garfield besides he was a president, but I love the actors in this. So I think I am going to check this out as well. It looks really, really interesting to me. And finally today, can I just say, I hate to be a negative Nancy here on a Friday, but my God, I am really beginning to dislike Sydney Sweeney. Like, what is it? And also, is Sydney Sweeney in a hostage situation? I was looking at paparazzi photos yesterday that her and her new beau, Scooter Braun, yes, the Scooter Braun, they are now together. And they did their first, paid, I don't know, this was a backgrid paparazzi shoot. And when you see backgrid, that usually means this is a tipped-off thing, this is a planned thing. And they were sitting on a rock in Central Park, and it looked so awkward and so uncomfortable. And Scooter Braun is dressing like he's like a titan of industry on like a ranch vacation, and he's got like these weird white socks. I don't know why I was so concerned with his white socks and his big white teeth. And they're just sitting on this rock and kissing and canoodling, and at the same time looking directly at the camera at times. And I was like, ooh. Who is this for? Why are we doing this? And by the way, Sydney Sweeney was in a very long-term relationship up until like 7 or 8 months ago. And so even if you think about like a normal person, sometimes you get into a relationship really quickly after a long-term relationship, and then that'll last for a couple months and you realize, oh my God, I'm still all fucked up from that last relationship. But Sydney Sweeney, man, and she also did this horrible interview this week where she was asked about her American Eagle Outfitters jeans campaign. And she was like, I just love jeans. I love jeans. That's it, and if I have something important to say, you'll hear about it. And I'm just like, Sydney, you do not have to try to achieve global superstardom. Just work on your life. Just try. It's so hard just to be a normal person. And I'm like, oh God, this just seems so wrong. And Scooter Braun, of all people, no offense to Scooter, but he's not had the best track record. And it seems like one of those relationships where he set his sights on Sydney Sweeney. I could be misreading this completely. He set his sights on Sydney Sweeney. He's like, she will be mine. I will do everything in my power to make sure she is mine. And he probably he probably tried to romance the hell out of her and probably got in good with her parents and just threw money of just everything was probably taken care of. Oh, you want to go here? Here's a private jet. You want to go there? I'll send clothing. Like that kind of relationship. And that's got to be a really powerful aphrodisiac that makes you forget a lot of who you are potentially. But I'm sorry, this backgrid photo shoot was not it. It was so ridiculously funny to me. It reminded me of the early aughts Spencer and Heidi photo shoots that they would do, where Spencer would tip off the paparazzi and they'd be like at a pumpkin patch or I was just like, this is, it's like it made me miss the Spencer and Heidi of the early aughts where I was like, man, they did it right. This is just weird. And I think it's all right to call things out that are weird. It's like that is part of pop culture is that you'll have pop culture that you really love, that you respect. And then you have pop culture where you're like, this doesn't feel right, but it's hysterically funny. And I did find this hysterically funny, but I just have to say it doesn't feel right. It does not feel right. Oh, this is interesting. I just went to the bathroom and I was on my phone and Demois posted photos from the Stranger Things series finale party, their premiere party. And we did a news story earlier this week. This was out in the press that Millie Bobby Brown filed a report, a bullying and harassment report against her co-star, David Harbour, before season 5 filmed. And then at the premiere party, Demois has these shots of them laughing together on the red carpet, taking photos together. And in the report, it was saying that, a representative would have to be around them at all times and that they wouldn't that he wasn't even going to do press. So this was a really shocking photo that I just saw, which kind of means that potentially, once again, the Daily Mail cannot be trusted, or that, season 5 started shooting a very long time ago. Maybe everything got like water under the bridge. But David Harbour having the worst week ever because his ex-wife Lily Allen released her album West End Girl last week, which I think is an excellent album. Check it out this weekend if you haven't listened to it yet, but talks about talks about a lot of his wild and wicked ways. So I thought this was so interesting, and now I'm even more curious of what the actual story here is. But they are laughing like they're old friends. Oh my God, pop culture is so weird. Okay, let's get to OC. Okay, Orange County, Season 19, Reunion Part 1. Now, what's going to be really interesting is in a couple weeks, we'll start hearing the rumors, the rumors about who is going to get kicked off this show and who are they going to keep. I just want them to do a clean sweep at this part. Anyways, we start the reunion where we're seeing clips from the next 3 episodes. And, when you see like a 30-second package of all the clips, it looks pretty damn exciting. Gina's like, I don't play that game. Woo. And Jen Pedranti going, I didn't fuck with your paycheck, Katie Janela. I was your friend. And Katie Janela like flipping back her hair. Flip back hair. And Tamra walking with 2 lady. I don't know if this is her glam squad. I've said this for years now. There needs to be a reality show about the glam squads of these ladies. I mean, like, go back and find the episode. I mean, I've said this now for years, but it's like they seem to be the closest to all of these ladies because Tamra's just crying, walking with these 2 ladies and going, I have been on this show for 15 fucking years. Also, Tamra seems to be one of those people that is afflicted with a disorder that I'm seeing a lot lately. It's where you sound like you're crying and then no liquid is coming out of your eyes at all. And I don't know if that just means you have dry eyes. And Jennifer Aniston is a big proponent of dry eyes. She used to do ads for dry eyes that I was fascinated by. I didn't even know that was an affliction, but maybe Tamara has dry eyes because she always makes the sounds like she's crying. And then there's no liquid coming out of her eye holes, right? It's bizarre to me. I'm just like, where are the tears? Please, I want to see the tears. Now, last episode, it ended with the cameras being picked back up, so Gina, Jen Pedranti, and Shannon could do like some fake acting of like, oh my God, Tamra dealt with a blogger and said every date of every scene. She leaked the season to the blogger, which is weird that she leaked the season to the blogger because we didn't really get any of that information. So did she leak it to one blogger? What's the deal? But these ladies seemed like they were shocked. I don't even know why you'd be shocked at all. They all deal with... Listen, any housewife is going to DM with fans. In fact, Emily even talks about in this episode DMing with somebody that helped her diagnose or lead her down a path with Luke to find out what potentially might be wrong with her son. Like, there might need to come a point where Bravo celebrities aren't allowed to read our DMs because it just seems like they just now rely on it as a storyline. That in podcasts. So we're seeing like Gina read that, to bloggers and fan pages. And Tamra walking once again with the ladies and not crying now. There's no proof. There is no proof that I did this. And then the source going, Tamra told me everything from that season. Which, by the way, I just had somebody DM me today thinking that voice is me. Last week, everybody said that voice was Jeff Lewis. And we talked about that on Jeff Lewis's Sirius XM radio show this week. And that's listen, Jeff has way better things to do with his time, even though he probably would enjoy it. But also Jeff said, hey, I would go on camera if I wouldn't hide behind a voice. But also that's not my voice, unfortunately. And I think the listeners or viewers of the show know me a little better than I wouldn't, I'm goofy, but I wouldn't do this. So, and Tamara keeps going, there's nothing in writing. This is nothing in writing. And Gina's like, this is our whole show. This is all our content. This is the great content that the OC ladies are producing, and Tamara's leaking it. And then we see Katie Janela with her hand on Tamara's knee, where once again Tamara's like, but she's covering her eyes because there's no water coming out of those eye holes. And Katie's like, go home, decompress the day, okay? And this must be after the reunion filmed. Decompress the day. And Tamara goes, this is not what this show is about. Are you fucking kidding me? This is what this, especially this show, this franchise, it is what the show is about. And it is that way because of things that you've done throughout the seasons. Or you can't complain about the field that you're playing on when you have helped institute the rules of the game. You know, you can't cry because you had you can't fake cry because you had a bad reunion and say, this isn't what this show is a sisterhood. It is not a sisterhood. Stop this shit. Can we all, I don't need a show to gaslight me. You know, my genes gaslight me every day. I do not need Orange County to gaslight me at all. Anyways, Andy Cohen's voice comes out. Tonight, the 3-part Real Housewives of Orange County reunion begins. And we see all the ladies getting out of their cars, and Tamara's like, what a beautiful morning. And some lady brings in Katie Janela a bottle of Grey Goose and says, breakfast of champions. And then we see 4 boxes of the ladies getting made up, and we see Tamara fully topless with boob pasties on. And I'm sorry, I'm going to be the father of a young daughter. I don't need to see this kind of garbage. This isn't God. This isn't godlike, you guys. And then we see more clips from the reunion where Andy's asking Emily of did you have and Emily's like, have an orgasm? And Tamara goes, we got fucked. And Katie Janela goes, ooh. And Andy goes, I don't know if I'm ready to see my ladies like this. That's right, Andy. I'm not ready either. You should be in control of this. And then Shannon going over to say hi to Gretchen in her trailer. And Gretchen's like, let's do this. And Shannon's like, oh my gosh. And Gretchen saying to Katie Janela, I didn't call you once. So Bad It's Good is sponsored by BetterHelp. Now, we are coming up on the time change again. And as seasons change, days grow darker sooner, it can be a tough time for so many of us. This November, BetterHelp is encouraging everyone to reach out, check in on friends, reconnect with loved ones, and remind the people in your life that you are there. Just as it can take a little courage to send that message or grab a coffee with someone you haven't seen in a while, reaching out for therapy, that can feel difficult too. Trust me, I've been there many times, but I can tell you that it is worth it. And it almost always leaves people wondering, why didn't I do this sooner, right? So go connect with somebody. It's something that I have to remind myself to do and not just be podcasting all the time. To take these moments to reach out to somebody, to talk to a friend, to talk to a therapist. And BetterHelp is a great place to start. BetterHelp therapists work according to a strict code of conduct and are fully licensed in the U.S. BetterHelp does the initial matching work for you so you can focus on your therapy goals. A short questionnaire helps identify your needs and preferences, and their 12-plus years of experience and industry-leading match fulfillment rate means that they are typically getting it right the first time. If you aren't happy with your match, you can switch to a different therapist at any time from their tailored recommendations. With over 30,000 therapists, BetterHelp is one of the world's largest online therapy platforms. They've served over 5 million people globally, and it works. With an average rating of 4.9 out of 5 for a live session based on over 1.7 million client reviews. This month, don't wait to reach out. Whether you're checking in on a friend or reaching out to a therapist yourself, BetterHelp makes it easier to take that first step. So Bad It's Good listeners get 10% off their first month at BetterHelp by using BetterHelp.com/SoBad. That's BetterHelp.com/SoBad. We pulled our phone records, and Matt Janella, Katie's husband, actually came to the reunion, unlike Slade. Boo! And said, oh, you want to get into this? You want to get into this? And Andy goes, Matt's ready. And Andy looks a little turned on when he says that, right? And then Jen Bedranti telling Katie, saying, Katie, we had a conversation because when I was in the trailer, I got a call. I don't know what that means. And then anyways, these ladies are like now making their way to the stage, and we keep then cutting back to scenes that we're going to see over these next 3 episodes. And Tamara goes, she's got a podcast on my network. And Emily screams, I'm not on your network anymore. And Tamara goes, we had to put you back on because when you got off, it tanked. Exactly. Let's get into the podcasting drama. Let's get into impressions and downloads and BetterHelp ads and MeUndies ads. You couldn't pull off a MeUndies ad, Emily. And we see Gretchen walking in going, this is very dramatic for me. And Gretchen says, a lot of accounts, these posts were tied to Tamra. And Andy goes, ooh. And then Heather, sitting down, goes, this is the wrong side for my dress slit and my nose. And then the voice from above says, here we go. Everybody's looking at Andy. And then we cut to Gretchen saying, that's fucked up. And then Tamara screaming, and my children's life. I have never done this. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And we begin. Finally, thank God. Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Real Housewives of Orange County Season 19 reunion. I'm Andy Cohen, presiding over a time-honored ceremony that'll be equal parts solemn and revealing, like getting married in a white bikini. Before we go any further, let's welcome the Housewives. Hi, Shannon Storms-Bedore.
Hi, Andy.
How are you?
I'm very good.
I hear you are fresh off a week at the Golden Door. Now, remember, the Golden Door was the place that Shannon raved about where they went and did a little function on the first episode. And that's when the Katie Janela pileup first started, because it came out that Katie had called the Bravo babe a Bravo content creator. And Katie said she didn't. And she was like, oh, my God, my service doesn't work at the Golden Door. And it's like, then she realized that she was lying and told Tamra of like, you know what? I do remember now. I called her directly on Instagram. Anyways, we see a picture of Shannon at the Golden Door, and Andy says, are you feeling zen tonight? And Shannon goes, I am very zen, yes. And Andy goes, Heather Dubrow, nice to see you. You said you wanted to be a Beverly Hills housewife because the drive was shorter. How was the drive tonight? And Heather goes, it took me about 7 minutes. And Andy goes, okay, very good, because they shot in Los Angeles. But I love Andy kind of getting that zing out there because, you know, we have like Beverly Hills Housewives, the Real Housewives of Beverly Hills. They don't live in Beverly Hills, but they don't live like an hour and a half away, you know? Andy goes, hi, Emily. You look great. What is different? And Emily goes, I think I just got my shit together. I dropped a few Katie Janellas. But she says she got her shit together after they finished filming. She says it was a rough season for her. She said she had a lot of things going on with Luke. Oh, my God. It only took 3 minutes for her to mention Luke. But she said she wasn't taking care of herself, and she got herself together. You know, speaking of Luke, I was watching her wife swap episode, which aired this week. And weirdly enough, Luke, like Annabelle, her daughter, was the problem child. I was like, Luke seemed pretty like fucking cool, and Annabelle was the problem child. I'm like, what is going on? Is Luke okay? Because it looks like Annabelle's the problem child. Who's the problem child? But Andy goes, it looks like you lost, Andy trying to tiptoe, it looks like you lost weight. And Emily says she lost 25 to 30 pounds. And also she has a big old thick hairdo on this too, which like, I feel like that added the 25 pounds just in her hair. But Andy said, are you back on your work program? And Emily says she works out 7 days a week. And then Andy goes, hey, Gina. Hi, Andy. How's the real estate biz? We're doing very well. And Andy's like, you love it? I do love it. And then Andy goes, it's so much schlepping. And Gina's like, it is a lot of work. It is a lot of schlepping. It actually feels really good to schlep again, you know? Yeah. And Andy's like, okay. And he's like, okay, are you doing good financially? Can we cut you loose? Are you doing good enough where we don't need to feel responsible if we cut you next season? And then Andy goes, hi, Katie. Hi, Katie Janela. It's great to see you. We missed you for the back half of the season, and you're here with the group again. I wonder, how are you? Did everybody miss? Andy goes, we missed you. Who's we? Andy goes, how are you feeling about being back with the group? And do you have any intentions for today? And Katie says, I just feel like I need to make up for some lost time, say some things that didn't get said. And yeah, I'm happy to be here. And then Andy goes, hey, Jen, how are you? What's going on? Did Ryan have any creative suggestions on your wardrobe for tonight? And Jen goes, bikini, side tie, side string, triangle top, shave all my pubes, the whole thing, But everybody kind of laughs at this, And then Andy says, finally, hello, Tamra. And Tamra goes, hello, Andy. You recently had breast surgery. Is that true? And Tamara's like, yeah, I had reconstructive surgery because I had my pectoral muscle detached and it was up by my shoulder. Holy shit. Oh, God. Tamara says, and I'm like, well, while you're in there, just maybe throw in a little bit. What? I feel like I've lived through 4 or 5 different breast procedures with Tamara. I know this show's been on a long time. I just feel like I'm just like, God, another one? So anyways, Heather goes, that's what a lot of people do with plastic surgeons while you're there. My husband, Terry DeBro, is one. And then Tamara goes, oh, and by the way, I won't be quitting today. So Tamara trying to get ahead of the narrative, not the narrative, the actual reality that she quit 3 or 4 times this season. But Andy fires back, really? And then Tamara goes, I mean, the day is young. And Andy goes, yeah, I mean, we'll see. Yeah. I mean, Tamara, that's what I'm saying. She plays it like a game because she's, immediately hits you with one of her faults to kind of get it out of the way. To say, I'm going to get it before you ask me about it, right? And then Tamara very wisely goes, I'm in better spirits because Teddy's okay. And Andy's like, that's incredible. And Tamara's like, it's a miracle. Her last scan, 0 tumors detected, and, everybody's like, that is amazing. It is amazing. By the way, that is amazing. But once again, giving information of like, the reason that I said I quit all those times, I blamed that on Teddy, but Teddy's great now. So everything's good, right? And he says, Tamara, we saw you on social media at Alexis Bellino's wedding. And I'm like, oh no. Andy says, you said it was one of the most beautiful weddings you ever attended. Tell me about it. Yeah, you've said it was one of the most beautiful Friday weddings that you've ever attended. And then Tamara goes, I mean, I feel weird talking about it in front of Shannon. Do you feel weird, Tamara? Do you feel weird? Because you sure posted about it a lot. You sure made your thoughts very public. Oh, do you feel weird now? Do you feel weird now? No, you don't. And Tamara goes, no, I don't want it. No disrespect to you. No, it's Shannon. I would feel weird. And Shannon's go, no. I of course, I saw the pictures. It looked like it was beautiful. And then Tamara goes, it was just stunning. I'd never seen so many cowboy hats. And Andy goes, nice. And Tamara goes, yeah, it was nice. And he goes, Jen, were you invited to that wedding? Or there was some drama around that? And Emily goes, she was uninvited. And Jen goes, I was invited and then I was uninvited. The day she got married, I texted her and said, I'm thinking of you today and happy for you and John Jansen. And she's so Alexis, Jen says. She texted me right back. I wish there was a world where we could be together. Are you free? Can you and Ryan come? And I'm like, wait, I think I just got reinvited. That really does put you in the minds of some of these ladies of like Alexis on her wedding day, just answering texts going, no, you can come now. No, we're good. We're good. Andy goes, she uninvited you. Why? And Jen says, because we weren't even talking at that point. And she heard that Shannon and I were going through stuff and I was choosing Shannon over her and it didn't feel right to Alexis. Andy goes, Tamara, you joke about quitting today. But do you have any intentions for the day? And Tamara goes, yeah, I mean, going into the season, I was emotionally in a really difficult spot. And he goes, are you still going to therapy? Yeah, I was there on Monday. Andy, I would have had your next child if you had said, could we see the receipts? Can we see the receipts that you were there? I mean, I at this point, I need proof. I'm sorry, I need proof. And Andy goes, okay. And Tamara goes, I'm just trying not to get reactive when I get upset. Ugh, oh my God. Stuff it up a pipe and smoke it. Andy says, I did think that somehow you were going to have a different approach to conflict this season based on the therapy. And Tamara goes, you didn't think that I was calmer this season than any other? And Andy goes, no, I didn't. And then we have a clip package of Tamara going, fuck off to Tamara, fuck off. And then another scene going, it's none of your fucking business. And then another scene storming out, fuck off. And then Tamara putting up the Instagram story post that she quit. And Tamara goes, oh, okay, so you didn't feel that way? Okay. This is where I feel like Tamara, this is another kind of weirdly brilliant move that the audience is kind of onto her with, is that she's like, she'll gaslight you of like, wait, are you kidding me? You didn't think I was calmer this season? Huh. Okay. Well, that's interesting. Huh. I guess I'll have to think about that. And then Gina goes, I feel like sometimes with like things like therapy, things get worse before they get better. Don't give her a lifeline, Gina. My God, let Tamara talk. Why are you giving her a lifeline? And he's like, you bring stuff up and you're raw, but you're not a changed person yet. Yeah. And Tamara goes, absolutely true. Thank you, Gina. Yeah, you know what? Also, I didn't have a good season because my pectoral muscle tore. And then Jen goes, when you want to make a change, we're adults. You just start making the change. And Tamara goes, I know, but you then have to also understand when I was going through therapy, I was on a good track. And then 2 weeks into filming with everything that was going on with Teddy, that derailed me a bit. Sure, the things in life, those things do derail you a bit, but that also is what the show is about. But also, it derailed her a bit, but at the same time, it's the same Tamara, or the character of Tamara that we've seen every season. It just reminded us of like, oh God, because we've seen this from Tamara before. It wasn't like, I've never seen Tamara like this before. It was like, oh, this again? And then Shannon goes, I know it was hard, and it's probably inappropriate for me to say, but I didn't get the grace that you're asking everyone for, the grace that I have given you this season. Now, Shannon has an interesting point there, because Tamara fucking stepped on the gas last season and ran over Shannon about 30 times. Now, Shannon herself will admit she's the one that drove drunk into a house. But then having to deal with that on top of the Alexis John Jansen storyline with Alexis being on the show, that's a fucking lot. And, I thought Shannon handled it amazingly well for all of that shit. Tamara didn't. And Tamara says, I didn't ask for grace. No, you did. In fact, I can remember one just off the top of my head when you were yelling at Heather Dubrow after one of the trips saying that she didn't give you enough grace. It's bullshit. And that's why I need these producers to be on top of it, of like in Andy's earpiece of like, Andy, we need you to push back a little bit. Actually, we're pulling the clip right now. She did ask Heather to give her grace like that. So when cast members are allowed to just lie or tell their own truth that is not true, it needs to be called out. And we don't need to see the clips at home, but I want to watch the clips of them and say, okay. Because, Tamara would see it and go, I stand corrected, I guess. And then Jen says, Tamara, it just feels like, well, we're assholes if we want to move forward in conversations that are tough with you because now you're going through the hardest time in your life. And she's saying she didn't feel like she got that. And Shannon's like, I was going through the hardest time in my life. And then Tamara goes, okay, Shannon. And Shannon goes, we don't need to go back. And then Tamara goes, you just went back. So let me talk if you're going to make a statement. And Shannon goes, I'm just bringing up to you the frustration that I feel listening to all this. And then Tamara goes, I know, I've seen it all season. Just so fucking dismissive. It is so gross. We are like 6 minutes into this reunion. And then Tamara goes, first, and by the way, Shannon's looking at her like, what are you doing? Why are you looking at me like this? Because it's just so dismissive, Tamara's face. And so Tamara goes, first of all, and then Shannon goes, you've seen it all season. Okay. And Tamara goes, yeah, I tried very hard for you. And then Shannon goes, because I'm a grudge holder. You're Tamara Grudge. Andy, by the way, smiles because that's a good one. I don't think I've even ever thought, and that's a simple joke, but that's brilliant. Tamara Grudge. I'm Tamara Grudge. I love that. Tamara Grudge. And Shannon goes, you have grudges for everything. And Tamara goes, I don't have any grudges. That's my problem. I let go of things very quickly. Oh my God, get Gretchen, because Gretchen's not out there yet. Pull Gretchen out right now. I let go of things very easily. Are you fucking kidding me? I'm going to lose my fucking mind. You don't let go of anything. Are you out of your... You let go... You still holding on to anger from Shannon, of all people. And then Emily goes, that was a good one. Did you really just say Tamara Grudge? And she goes, yeah, Tamara Grudge. And Heather turns to Gina. That was really good. I'm going to use that in my groundlings class. Andy says, Alexis Bellino said on a podcast a few weeks ago, which is probably Carlos King's podcast, Reality with the King, which I love. And he says that she thought that Shannon was trying to ice Tamara out to get Tamara off the show. Okay, right even before I heard Shannon's response, that's fucking ridiculous. Shannon, when she tries to do something, it is so fumbly that, listen, Shannon is not... I wish Shannon would be more of a master manipulator, and she just can't, right? I'm sorry. And Tamara goes, 100% that's true, Andy. And Andy goes, because that's what Alexis feels Shannon did to her. No, Alexis, you iced yourself out. You iced yourself out. Oh my God. Remember how insane Alexis was last season? You iced yourself out. And Shannon points out, I don't even know what I'm going to wear when I film. Like, we literally watched Shannon struggle with her Spanx for a good 30 seconds last week's episode. You think she fucking knows? Are you kidding me? Anyways, Shannon goes, I'm sorry. I don't try and ice anyone out. And then Katie pipes up. So you didn't call production in the middle of the season and say, I'm uncomfortable. I feel unsafe around Katie. I want Gretchen to have her orange. I want her out. You didn't say that? And Shannon goes, absolutely not. And then Katie turns to Jen Pedronti and goes, Katie, didn't Shannon have a phone call with Alex Baskin during the season? And Jen goes, I'm supposed to know if Shannon had a phone call? And Katie goes, I heard it from you. And Jen's like, we're doing this again? And Katie goes, before we left for New Orleans, that's what I heard from you. And then Jen goes, and Alex told you that? First off, I don't think this is true. Second off, Jen Pedronti continues to have the worst memory of any Real Housewife I've ever seen on these shows. She never remembers any conversation. Like, I think some of these things are true, and then some of them, I think, listen, Katie was ganged up on unfairly, and I really like Katie, and I miss Katie on this show. But I do think Katie has an uncomfortable relationship with the truth. I think she lies a lot. I think she's still lying about the Kiki Monique thing, which sucks because you can't say you were lying about certain things but not lying about other things. You've completely lost it as a reliable narrator, but at the same time, I can still say I like Katie because none of these other women are completely truthful. So Alex says, Alex Baskin just said in my earpiece that they never spoke. And Katie goes, okay. And she goes, thank you. Andy says, Heather, Lauren from Nashville said, whether it was a game or not, you and Emily made it clear that you wouldn't trust Tamara with sensitive information this season. Remember that when they were at that little slumber party? And Tamara says, well, I'm hearing Heather, yes, and I will work on that. We might have to have a deeper conversation about that. By the way, which is like, that is so like, who cares? Yes. Why would Tamara ever think that anybody should give her sensitive information based on just her history alone on these shows, let alone the podcast that she does about all of the housewives? What, I mean, come on. Like Tamara, like if I was Tamara, I would be like, fix my boob. No, I would be like, yeah, I get why you think that because there have been many instances that have been recorded on this show that we're all talking about where I have said secrets and I get that completely. Instead of we have to have a further conversation about that, you should just say, I understand completely. Emily says, well, when we talk about that game I played with Heather, I said it too. I said Tamara. But I feel, and Andy says, yeah, and Tamara said, you broke her heart by saying that. You broke her heart by saying that. And Emily says, because I've seen you throw out terrible things about Shannon, and she was your best friend for 10 years. And Tamara goes, she was throwing out terrible things about me too. And then Shannon goes, I said you had an ego. And Tamara goes, that's not all you said, sweetheart. And Shannon goes, that is your justification for treating me like shit last year? And Tamara goes, that's not all that you said, Shannon. Sweet lips, Shannon. And Shannon goes, okay, then your little whisper in your ear is inaccurate in a pot stirrer. And then Tamara goes, oh, you're the only one who has little whispers in her ears. And then makes this weird, like, boogie face and puts her hands in her ear. You're the only one with boogie, little whispers in it. Like, Tamara, look at yourself. It is redonkulous. It's like a grown man doing a podcast about Housewives. It's ridiculous. And then Tamara does, like, the crazy signal, like, the finger around the ear. Like, ugh. Tamara, what are you doing, man? Are you on Xanax and wine again? Andy says, why were you so surprised that Emily and Heather would say that they don't trust you when you've thrown people's secrets in their faces to hurt them? Exactly, Andrew. Exactly. And Tamara goes, like what? Tamara going on the assumption that Andy hasn't done his research. Well, like what? Give me an example. And Andy goes, and then Shannon goes, oh, like my dad? And Tamara goes, Shannon, Season 15, you had a conversation with Bronwyn Wyndham Burke saying that you have alcoholism in your immediate family and you went to Al-Anon. And we flash to that scene from 2020 where Ginger says she grew up with alcoholism in her family. And so she said, I used to go to Al-Anon meetings. And Tamara says, oh, that's okay, Shannon, for you to say that and put it out there. But I can't throw it in your face in this season. And Shannon's like, we can play the la-la game. But what is the la-la? We can play the la-la game, but for you to single out my father. I was in tears having to say, Dad, your past is now brought up on a television show because you decided to bring it up. You know what you said to under your breath? And we flash back to Tamara saying, oh, you know that she's worried about that it's just going to make her look bad because she has a drinking problem. Tamara really is just sometimes just reprehensible on this show, and it's not even a fun villain. And Shannon goes, how dare you? And Tamara goes, because I was pissed off the way you were acting. And Shannon goes, but that's what you do. And then Tamara goes, that's what you do too. The repartee, it's just amazing. That's what you do too. And Shannon goes, I was pissed off so I can say that. And Tamara goes, I was pissed off too. And then Tamara goes, calm down. And Shannon's like, you are a horrible person to my 97-year-old dad. When it comes to my dad, Shannon says, who told me 2 weeks ago, I'm going to cry. This is the only time I'm going to cry. He held my hand at dinner and he teared up and said, do you know any hot younger people? No, he said, you are the reason why I am living. And Shannon is tearing up. But she goes, to see you, I live to see you, she says her dad told her. So how dare you throw that out? And then she goes, I'm done crying. And Tamara goes, well, I am sorry. It wasn't trying to single your dad out. It wasn't, I guess, my place to say that at that moment. Yeah, it wasn't. Period, point blank. And Tamara goes, okay. And then he goes, Jen, Whitney in Santa Barbara said, do you feel Tamara would have less problems with the group if she took accountability for her actions? Accountability, don't know her, right? Jen says, the night we sat outside cake decorating at Tamara's place, I remember I looked at you, Tamara, and I said, you're in therapy. When do you look in the mirror and go, fuck, it might be me? And Tamara goes, I am saying, fuck, it might be me. That's why I'm in therapy. And then Jen goes, well, that means patterns have to change. Behaviors have to change. And Tamara goes, I know. That's why I'm going to therapy. Oh, the work is just paying off in oodles, folks. Andy goes, by the way, I wish Andy at some point, like Tamara, it is getting ridiculous with the faces and it's not cute. Andy says, has your therapy enlightened you to anything that you came today feeling like you want to apologize for? And Tamara says, yeah. Okay, my plan is to stay calm, apologize, take accountability, and try to move forward with everyone. I thought she wanted to throw in the fart noise. And Heather goes, that's a good plan. I like that plan. Let's all coddle Tamara, folks, because we're scared of her. We come back from break and they're all saying like Heather got a salmon sperm facial. And Emily's like, I mean, I don't even want my husband's sperm near me, let alone some fish. How dare you? Shane has beautiful sperm. And so Andy goes, welcome back to the reunion. From covert communications with Emily's ex-nanny to nefarious kinks with bloggers, Katie was accused of stirring a pot of deception this season. But a failed polygraph test and a secret recording had these women dropping her faster than Shannon bailed on her grilled cheese. Watch. And we do the clip package of Katie Janela. And Andy says, tough stuff. No, Andy's like, how do you, so Katie, what is it like watching that? And Katie goes, it's not fun. It's pretty hurtful to watch, yeah. And he says, how surprised were you by the viewer response after the lie detector episode aired? Because it felt to me like the viewers really rallied around you. And Katie says, I am shocked and very pleasantly surprised by how much love I'm getting, yeah. And he says, Shannon, you appear to have refollowed Katie on social media. And Shannon goes, I never unfollowed her. And Andy goes, are you two in a better place now? And Katie says, no, we haven't spoken. And Emily says, when you describe what happened, I mean, we all know you recorded Shannon, Katie, at the promo shots, but then you keep making it like you just sent a voice note to Matt. But you obviously played it for Alexis Bellino. And Katie goes, I did not play it for Alexis. And Andy goes, she says you did. She went on social media, and Katie goes, she said that I did. And Andy goes, she said she heard the recording. And Katie goes, right. And I wanted her to tell me what Shannon says then. So once again, isn't it weird that it always happens around Katie that somebody's lying in the situation? There are so many of these scenarios. And then Andy goes, let's play it. And Katie goes, no. And he goes, I'm just kidding. But God, if we're going to play in the sandbox, if we're going to get dirty, let's get dirty, right? And Shannon goes, I want to finish this. You say that I was hours late, that I caused a whole scene. And Katie goes, your glam team had to change your hair because they didn't have enough time because you were so late. And Tamara goes, haven't you filmed people, Shannon, without their knowledge? And Shannon goes, we're just going to drop it. And Tamara goes, no. And Shannon goes, you're going to hurt somebody, so I'm not going to do that. And Andy goes, was it someone here? And then Tamara goes, no, it was Vicky. And Shannon goes, okay, you know what? Vicky's going to be very upset. There was a huge argument with her husband, and I wanted to make sure everything was okay. And once I did, I deleted it. Okay, so Shannon did that in the past to Vicky. So that was the point there, right? And then Andy says, Emily, Morrow in Syracuse said, you seem to be a fierce defender of your family. Did you go into defense mode on Katie when she was coming after your family at the beginning of the year? And Emily says, of course, because this is such a level of deceit and invasion of privacy and just all kinds of things that are just so outside the realm of anything I've ever had to deal with before. When I get information about someone, I just screenshot it and show it to Gina, and we have a good laugh. That's really what you should do. You know what I mean? And Katie goes, so you're saying that last year at the reunion, Emily, when you brought up all the stuff about me, that wasn't, and Emily goes, I will differentiate. First of all, I apologize for bringing it up. Remember, she brought up Katie's legal issues with her first husband, right? And with her kids. And Emily goes, I apologize for bringing it up in the manner that I did, because I understand that it looked like I was bringing up something about your children, but it wasn't about your children. And Katie goes, you said I heard you lost physical and legal custody. I mean, Emily, she's got you there, dead to rights, Emily. That is very true. You did say that. So we flash back to the reunion, and Katie says, being in my late 20s, having no money and nowhere to go, that was the only decision I could make. And you thought it was going to be fun to be like, oh, look, Katie, you lost physical. And Heather goes, she didn't think it would be fun. And then Katie goes, then why would you have brought it up? And Jen goes, she felt like there was inconsistency in it, Katie. And Emily goes, yeah, I thought your backstory wasn't consistent. And Katie goes, I need to explain myself from 12 years ago to you? I mean, that's, I got to go with Katie on this one, And then Emily goes, I feel like you use content creators, podcasters, journalists, whatever you want to call them. Yeah, I mean, what do we even call ourselves? That's the big fucking mystery of this season. What do we call ourselves? But Emily says, I feel like you use all these people to fight battles for you. And Katie goes, no, I don't. And Emily goes, if you're that pissed, that's fine. You're allowed to be that pissed, Katie. That's fine. But at least have the guts to bring it up to me, to my face. I mean, Emily's right on this one as well. I mean, there does seem to be a history with Katie of her interacting with all of these content creators to, share a lot of things that probably shouldn't be shared this early on in a Housewives run. And Katie says, and I truly apologize for how I handled it. And he says, Jen, Carson and Madison was, by the way, I do want Andy at some point to clock in and be, what does he think about all this shit? What does he think these housewives need to do in regards to how they behave with us content creators, right? But Andy says, why did you say Katie was a con artist between seasons? Was it because you knew she was talking to people behind everybody's backs? And Jen says, I will tell you things were not adding up. And then Katie goes, well, so did you say that or not about me being a con artist? And Jen goes, you've asked me this a million times. I told you I don't remember telling Gina it was a con artist, so I can't just once again, Jen Pedrante's memory fails her. I'm worried about Jen Pedrante's memory. And then Katie goes, Gina, did she say that? And Gina goes, it was something to the effect of, I've even sitting over here like, is this girl a con artist? And Ryan is saying, no, she's just new. And that's how I remember it. And Jen goes, for me, it was like you and I would have so many conversations, but I was having weird feelings about stories that you were telling me. And he goes, we got a lot of questions about the lie detector test. Katie, you told Us Weekly that you felt it was who is this Us Weekly blogger? No, that you said it was one person who refused to film with you and then went on to say, I think it came from one person who maybe set me up for something and made other people believe something untrue about me. And Andy goes, who was that person? And Katie goes, Emily. And Emily goes, I don't have that power. And then we cut to another commercial break as Emily says, I don't need a lie detector test to know that you're lying. And there's dramatic music as we go to another break. But I almost kind of agree with Emily there because, I mean, no offense to Emily, but she doesn't have that kind of power to get everybody to rally around her. I mean, she has little power, but not in that sense of, I think everybody was on the same page that I think there was a lot of inconsistencies with Katie. The sad thing is, I just don't think the show did that storyline justice in any way to make the audience understand it. And that is where I think the show faltered. The show failed these ladies in a sense because it made them all look batshit insane instead of trying to explain what they really felt, right? We come back and Katie says, I was set up. And Emily says, Katie said on camera, I'll even take a lie detector test. And we flash back to Katie saying, I'll take a lie detector test. When they were in, I think, New Orleans, Katie said that even before the lie detector test. So maybe that's where production got the idea. And yeah, Emily says that's where it came from. It was not my idea. And by the way, this is getting all pinned on Emily, but remember, production plays a part of this. Emily did not spend her money for that lie detector guy. Production, they were a huge part of that lie detector, right? But Emily's like, yeah, let's have a lie detector test. And I understand it's like they're 86% accurate. They're not admissible in court. And then Tamara goes, I heard if you clench your butthole, you can pass it. Which, by the way, Tamara's got to be clenching her butthole right now. Andy goes, and y'all came up with the questions, I might add. And Emily goes, that was my only input. And we flash back to them coming up with the questions. Emily taking around the paper, right? And so they came up with the questions. Production didn't. And Emily says, that was the only input I had. That's it. And Andy goes, well, production found the lie detector people because there are only a few that will go on camera. And Emily says, I'm sitting here telling you I had no way to set you up, Katie. And if I did set you up, first of all, they would have filmed it if I set her up. If I was like pulling the lie detector people over to the side and I'm like, hey, the girl named Katie, make sure you fail her, they would have filmed that. And Katie goes, but they did have you guys say, we've got her. There's a plan. And Gina goes, all that was, Katie, was there was a lie detector test about to happen. And Andy goes, you felt like this was going to settle it. And I thought you were going to fail the lie detector test. And Katie goes, but you know how it looks to me watching that. And Gina goes, I thought it was totally legitimate. What do I know? I'm in real estate. And Emily goes, look, it wasn't my idea. I don't need a lie detector test to know that you're lying. I already knew that. And Gina goes, I wasn't expecting you to fail every question, honestly. Emily goes, I was. And Gina goes, first of all, if you're going to set someone up, everybody knows if you're going to cheat on the test, you get 1 or 2 wrong. Gina just outing that she cheated all through high school. Andy says, Katie, there seems to be a feeling in the group that you were tougher behind everyone's back than at group events. Crystal in St. Louis said, why don't you say to the girls what you say in your confessionals? Which, by the way, I feel like a lot of housewives are guilty of that, but I agree. And Katie goes, I should do that. I should. And Andy goes, okay. And Tamara goes, a lot of people should. And Emily goes, what does that mean? And Tamara says, well, why do you think I'm talking about you? And Emily goes, I don't think you're talking about me because I say things. So who are you talking about? And Tamara goes, you say a lot of things in your confessionals about me. Like I was like, or behind my back or like with the other girls. I'm like, wow. Oh my God, Tamara, this isn't your first season. Tamara, that's all you do as well. That's all of the women do. Nobody has a strict, they always say, I'm not going to talk behind the girl's back. And then they always talk about, what are you talking about? And Emily goes, what are you saying, that I don't trust you? And Tamara goes, no, you said that to my face. And Emily goes, yeah, so what else have I said? And Tamara goes, you make little snide comments all the time. Project munch, Tamara? And Shannon goes, like you. Shannon kind of whispers, like you, Tamara, like you. And then Tamara goes, Shannon, no one's talking to you. Just be quiet. Just be quiet. And Shannon's like, well, I know. And Tamara goes, just sit on the end and be quiet. And Shannon goes, I'm on a show where we express our opinions. And Tamara goes, I'm talking to, Emily. I'm talking to Emily. And Shannon goes, and I'm saying you make snide comments like she's doing right now. And then Tamara goes, shut up. So gross. And Shannon goes, I can do that. And Tamara goes, God, I just felt like my feelings got hurt a lot. I don't know if you were trying to be funny about them. And Emily goes, but like what? And Tamara goes, just that I never had girlfriends, that I wasn't a girl's girl. Ooh. Emily goes, there were a lot of conversations I had with Gretchers, and I think I wonder if they asked Emily to stop saying Gretchers. And I was trying to explain, well, maybe she's never had close girlfriends. I don't know. But by the way, you're there to kind of like talk about your insides, right? Like talk about what makes you you. And I think that's a very fair observation from Emily. Something I would be curious about as well. And Emily says, I mean, if that hurt your feelings, I apologize for that. See, Emily, you're playing a game that you're going to lose because you're one of those people that I will apologize for that. No, don't. And then Tamara goes, thanks. And he goes, Gina, given that you forgave Katie at the hot pot, how hurtful was it hearing from Kiki Monique? Oh, Kiki Monique. I wish Kiki Monique was brought out. Oh, that would have been great. But how hurt that Katie told her that she perceived you to be making racist comments. And Gina's like, yeah, I would like to address this. I'm fully racist. No, she says, obviously you can understand how that sounds horrifying to me. With that said, now me watching back and seeing that whatever I said, which was totally not meant to be malicious in any way, shape, or form, but seeing that triggered a trauma in you from your past, I'm not in the business of triggering trauma. I'm in the business of selling real estate, right? And taking care of Travis's huge balls. And so if that's what it did, if my comment did that for you, I understand that. I accept that. And I'm sorry for that. And Katie goes, I appreciate that. It didn't trigger a trauma. It just seemed inappropriate to say at the time. Yeah, by the way, I mean, listen, we all have these kind of, we all say shit that are little like microaggressions. And it doesn't make us fully racist, but we just have to accept that sometimes we do. So you have to learn from these things, right? And Katie goes, and I never called you the R word. I said that had undertones that it made it feel that way. And Gina's like, okay, and I accept that. I really wish that instead of sitting down with Kiki Monique about that, you sat down with me. Because I feel like, and Katie goes, but to your point, we were trying to do better. And I told her, I said, I don't think Gina's a bad person, but these times made me feel that way. Her and I were bonding over people of color in the space because it is predominantly not people of color. And then Katie goes, to be the first Asian on Orange County in 18 years means a lot to me. And, hey, that is a very valid point too. And I'm very curious what Kiki will say, I'm sure, about this, if that is truly what was being talked about. Gina's like, my intention was never to minimize you or make you feel in any way, shape, or form less than in any capacity. And Gina, by the way, knows about feeling less than on this show. But she says she wholeheartedly apologizes that. So Katie appreciates that. Thank you. And then Andy goes, does anyone else want to apologize to Katie? And it is like fucking crickets. It's like, cricket. And then Katie goes, well, I think being called as evil as Alexis. And Shannon goes, and then Tamara goes, and Tamara Judge. But Shannon goes, I was going to say, when Bravo Social came in, is there anything that you regret from this season? And I said, I was so hurt by that thought that you would betray me. I am not happy with what I said. And then Andy goes, Katie, is there a place to move forward with some of the people in this group? And Katie goes, I hope so. Yeah, exactly. You hope so. I mean, Katie should be asking Andy, well, is there a place for me to move forward in this group? And then we cut to another commercial break. We come back from break and Gretchers is in the makeup trailer and she's getting done up by Glam. And the guy goes, is Slade coming by today? And Gretchen says, nope, he's not. And the guy says, he'll be supporting you from home. And Gretchen's like, yeah, he's supporting me from afar. And I will say, listen, that obviously was a gay man doing Gretchen's hair. And I had to do a search on my phone. My phone is a mess in terms of my photos. It's not a lot of personal photos. It's just screenshots of a bunch of entertainment bullshit over the last 10 years. And I did a search and I've seen some troubling things from Gretchen for a very long time. So I'm sorry. And I do think Gretchen, like with all of these ladies, and it won't happen, does need to take some responsibility. Because I know Gretchen does have a lot of friends in the LGBTQ plus community. And this is very hurtful to them. It just is. And we do all make mistakes, but I think she needs to take accountability for this. And when rights are being stripped away from our friends, our gay and lesbian friends, I mean, to me, it is ridiculous. And there does need to be accountability from Gretchen in particular for this, right? And it was weird that was the storyline. And then they threw on this tail end scene of Tamara was talking to bloggers too. Okay. Like I said, everybody, I think at this point is talking to bloggers. Let's go back to the Gretchen. Let's get some clarification. Let's find out. And I think at this point, it is the show's responsibility, is production's responsibility. And this company is run by a lot of amazing gay and lesbian people. Is that you need to let us know what is happening here, right? Anyway, Shannon on the couch is like, they're not filming yet. She's like, I hate there's a side view of my tree trunk. My tree trunk on the side of my body. Oh, God, I hate my legs on camera. So I get that, right? But Gretchen getting made up says, I'm excited about clearing up all the BS that, Katie has spun. Okay, so now it's Katie. Katie has spun the BS, but Tamara was the one that brought out these. So is Tamara's BS not BS, but Katie's BS is the BS? Anyways. And the guy's like, what is she saying? And Gretchen says, she's saying that I told her that Tamara drugged me, which is not true. I never said that. Yes, you did. In fact, we actually had her on camera saying, yeah, well, I did go to the hospital. Remember that? They showed that little moment. That's what I'm saying, is that you're showing us these things and then saying that it's BS. No, it's not BS. It's just that everybody is lying, so there's lies on top of lies. It's like a hat on top of a hat. Anyways, now they're going to film again, and he's like, we are back. In 19 seasons of Orange County, we've seen many Real House kids grow up before our eyes, even if their moms somehow never age a day. And while this group doesn't always agree on everything, they all share one characteristic in common. They're all horrible moms. No, they're actually great moms. And he says, everyone here is a loving and devoted mom. Watch. And then we have clips of all the ladies with their kids, but also the big clip package here is Emily talking about her son, Luke, right? And Emily really being upset about whatever is happening with Luke. I was really uncomfortable with this storyline in a way that I've not been as uncomfortable with other children's storylines. This one made me really uncomfortable because they didn't know what was going on yet, and I felt like there was a lot of room. I was worried about this storyline because I do like Emily. I do like Shane, right? I mean, I might not like them and how they are but I don't know. I like them. So we see this whole clip package, but it's mainly about Emily and Shane and just saying it's a journey. We're going to do the best we can. It's cute. After that, Andy says, so Emily, how is Luke? And Emily's almost already in tears. And she says it's very complicated. He went from a happy fourth grader that no teacher had ever said that there were issues. And Gina goes, gifted. And Emily's like, yeah, he was gifted. And all of a sudden, my child just completely changed. He just regressed. He started talking like a baby, acting out. Oh my God, Emily's describing me right now. But Emily says she was so confused. And then when the first episode aired, I had so many moms in my DM saying, have you checked into pandas? It's very complicated. I'm not a medical doctor, Emily says, but it's associated with strep throat. And Shana goes, wow. And Emily goes, in January, he had gotten a very bad case of strep throat. In pandas, the bacteria remains and then it affects the brain and the brain swells. So all of these symptoms are associated with strep throat and higher risk in kids. And there's higher risk in kids that are on the spectrum. And also he has ARFID. I mean, all roads kind of lead back, Emily says, to being on the spectrum. But by the way, this scares the shit out of me as somebody that is hopefully luckily enough to be a parent, in the next 6 months, or actually less than shit. Okay. But night, guys. Good podcast. That scares you, right? And I know a lot of listeners have kids, and you've just got to be worried sick when you can't diagnose what is happening or there's a mysterious illness. That has got to be just so heart-wrenching. And, but Andy says, is this something that can be treated? And Emily says he is going to have laser treatment on his brain, she says, to reduce the swelling in the brain. And everybody's shocked about this. And Emily says, he asked if the laser would hurt. And I said, no, it won't hurt. So he has to go 5 days in a row for like 3 hours, and it's supposed to reduce the swelling. And Emily says, I would never have known to have my child tested for pandas if it wasn't for these moms that... By the way, so is Emily saying that he tested positive for pandas? That's what I didn't hear. But she says all of these ladies that watched and reached out to her, she wouldn't have known. But once again, aren't we then dealing with the audience? Aren't we dealing with, you can even call the audience bloggers at times, right? But Emily says it's been an amazing community of sharing information and learning, and that means a lot to her, she says. That's amazing, but also just very scary. Andy says, Jen, we saw you posted recently that Dawson, your son, graduated from boot camp, but he passed out during the ceremony. Was that when he got the tattoo, or what happened? And Jen says, it was different. And same thing. I've had so many people sending me messages worried about Dawson. So in boot camp, the last 3 days is called the Crucible, and they take them out for 3 days. They sleep outside, strenuous all day long, 24/7. And Andy says his body gave out. And Jenny goes, yeah, we were in the medical tent all day. But he said he graduated. He's a Marine, and really proud of him. So good. And Andy goes, Tamara, you mentioned that you and Sydney, which is not the daughter that we saw this season, Sophia, this is her daughter that they've been estranged a little bit, right? And Andy goes, you saw her recently. Hey, talk to me about that. And Tamara goes, she came to the house. And everybody's like, wow. And she was going to lunch with Sophia. And now Tamara's tearing up. And I went outside and we hugged. We talked about life for about 30 minutes. Did you invite her in at least? Tamara says, and she's very sweet. And then she said, Mom, can I hug you goodbye? And everybody's like, oh my God. And Tamara's, once again, though, I think maybe Tamara really does have dry eyes because I'm not seeing the tears, but it sounds like she's crying. But I do think this is an emotional moment for her because we do know the struggles that her and her daughter have gone through, right? But Tamara says, I just held on to her for so long. And I just said, I can't let you go. And Andy gives her a tissue. But once again, I just can't. I'm looking at it I'm looking at it 1 foot away from the screen right now. But she said it was a really, really special moment. And Andy goes, I bet. And Tamara goes, she's coming around. Buy her a car or something. She'll come around even quicker. And then Andy goes, Shannon, is Stella still visiting every country in the Northern Hemisphere? And Shannon goes, yeah. And she let me know that she wants to get into hospitality. And she doesn't think she's ever going to live in the United States anymore. She told Shannon she's not going to live in the United States anymore. And Shannon goes, she's going to stay in Europe. And then Andy goes, Emily Allen from Watertown wants to know, how is your relationship with Shane going? And Emily goes, it's good. I mean, we're solid with everything going on with Luke. Sometimes I just need emotional support, and I don't get that from Shane. But that's okay because I get that from Gina. I get that from Heather. Oh, that kind of like took me out a little bit. Like I don't get emotional support at all from Shane. So I got to go to Gina. Yeah, I'm like an emotional support dog. Yeah. Emily says, Shannon asks about him and Jen does, and I get that from other places. And that's okay because I realize that when it's so chaotic in our home, the fact that Shane is just solid and pragmatic and just unemotional about things is really helpful. Yeah, it does seem like, I didn't love that emotional comment because I felt, I don't know, but I understood it. Andy says that he loved her wife swap episode. Did the experience change anything in your home with Shane? Are you doing more around the house? And Emily goes, yeah, I do a lot around the house. And she goes, I don't know. And Andy goes, yeah, you were like, wow, Shane does a lot. And Emily goes, he does. When I had to go live with someone else's husband, that's when I realized how much my own husband does. Because this guy did nothing. Like nothing. Yeah, you got to watch her wife swap episode. It's pretty cute, actually. And Gina goes, I'll tell you, Shane liked that other wife, too. Yeah, finally somebody that he liked. Oh. And they're all laughing about this as we go to another break. So we come back and Gretchen is out there and Andy's like, we are joined by the artist formerly known as Gretchen Christine, who occasionally goes by Gretchen Rossi. Hey, Gretchen. Hi, Andy. Great to see you. Nice to see you. And Andy goes, I can't believe you are back on the reunion couch. It's been how many years? And Gretchen says, I think it's been 12. 12. Wow. So, Gretchen, what were you going for look-wise? You're kind of like a little pink Elsa tonight. And then Tamara goes, I was thinking John Benet Ramsey because I copy other content creators. And Gretchen's like, yeah, you said that about the other outfit of mine, that talking head outfit that everybody said that about. And then Heather goes, I love the way you dress. And Emily goes, I find it entertaining. And Heather goes, there's like a thought process. But yeah, it's mental illness. But Heather says it's costuming in the best way. Yeah, she's got a look, right? And Emily says, yeah, but when I said she looked like she had been preserved in formaldehyde, that's a compliment. You've been preserved in formaldehyde. And Gina goes, meaning like you're so beautiful. And Emily goes, if someone said that to me, I'd be like, exactly. Thank you. And Gretchen says, I mean, listen, I could take it on the chin. You know what I mean? And Andy goes, what have you been doing since we last saw you? I mean, you obviously have a beautiful daughter. And we see Skylar, 5 years old. And Andy says, in terms of work, what have you been doing? And Gretchen says she does a lot of digital marketing. Does that just mean digital content creator, influencer? But she says she does it for other companies. I think that she means she does brand partnerships, but I don't know. But Gretchen says, and I'm considered an influencer. That's a main source of income for me. So use Gretchen code 20 to get a discount. I mean, seriously, people make full livings off that shit. And Andy goes, and what is, Andy asked the most important question, what is Slade doing professionally these days? Well, he's a pop star. No, Gretchen says he's a consultant. When you use that consultant word. And then he also sits on the Liberace Foundation board. And Andy's like, whoa, Liberace, the pianist? And Liberace, famous gay icon. And Andy's like, what? And really? And Gretchen's like, yeah. But by the way, usually when you sit on the board of something, that is usually not a paid position. But Andy says, what is his connection to Liberace? Well, he was a gay lover. No. But Andy's like, I'm sorry to focus on that. And Gretchen's like, I know, isn't it interesting? So he happens to be friends with Jonathan Warren, who's the consul of Monaco, and he runs the foundation out of Las Vegas. And so then he asked Slade to be on the board. That's why I had never known that. That is fascinating. Have you ever seen that? What was that HBO movie Behind the Candelabra with Michael Douglas and Matt Damon? It was so fucking good. I highly recommend that. And he goes, well, after a bitter feud that lasted 17 years and counting, Tamara and Gretchen reintroduced themselves to each other this season in hopes they could view each other in a better light. But unlike an Instagram filter, these two sworn enemies had two nostrils. No, these two sworn enemies struggled to smooth out their rough edges. Watch. And we have the clip package, the clip package of all their fights and them talking shit about each other. And he says, I want to back up to the beginning of the season. Gretchen, Jim from San Diego wants to know if you had reservations about coming back to the show and spending time with Tamara, or did you think you would have the upper hand this time? Tamara, the honest truth is, I was just happy to get a paycheck. But Gretchen says, I definitely had reservations because we had a long history together for sure. But my intent in no way was I'm coming for Tamara. That was not my thought process at all. I bet it was the producer's thought process. And he says, Tamara, Jessica in Reno, Nevada wants to know, why are you the way you are? No, how can you pretend that bringing Joe De La Rosa to two events wasn't an intentional dig at Gretchen? And Tamara goes, it wasn't a dig at Gretchen. Well, why didn't you bring her around more often previous seasons? Also, Joe's a sweetheart. It wasn't like Joe was going to get into it with Gretchen, right? But Tamara goes, Joe's one of my friends. And Gretchen says, I do think it was interesting that out of all the people she could have picked to bring, she brought Joe. But I guess I didn't expect anything less. And then Tamara goes, no, I'm not here to serve you. What? What are you talking about? I had to agree with Gretchen. Gretchen's like, I didn't say you were. And he goes, Kristen from Tennessee says, Gretchen, how are you blaming Tamara for Slade not having a job? And Tamara goes, yeah, please. For nearly 2 decades. And Gretchen's like, if it came across that way, then I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Did it cause any trouble with the Liberace Foundation? And Tamara goes, it didn't come across that way is what you said. And Gretchen says, what I'm trying to say is that being out in the public domain is at such a level like that, it can cause harm to someone's life. Yeah, I totally agree with Gretchen. Tamara says, but him being arrested didn't affect him trying to get a job? And everybody's like, zoinks. And Gretchen says, no. Yeah, being arrested is cool, folks. O.J. Simpson still had work after the double murders, right? I'm joking. And I'm not joking. Andy says, Gretchen, Chase in Salt Lake City wants to know, how does Slade contribute to the household? And Gretchen's like, well, what you guys didn't see on camera, I said when Slade goes to the grocery store, he goes around to places and he picks up aluminum cans and he will get, he says, sometimes Slade will go to the grocery store and it comes out of his account. And we flash back to that scene where Heather was asking, how do you split the bills? Who buys groceries? And Gretchen saying, if I go to the grocery store, I buy the groceries. If he goes to the grocery store, he buys groceries. And Heather goes, whatever your relationship is with Slade is absolutely your business. It's nobody's business. The only reason it was even a conversation is because we were talking about getting married. And you said you couldn't marry him because of financial reasons. That was never going to be on the table. And we flash back to 2012 and a conversation with DeBro where Gretchen's saying, Slade is trying to get things resolved with the courts. But we also don't want to take that on in a marriage, right? She doesn't want to take that on. And then Heather goes, and then you got engaged. And that's why we thought it was fake. And Tamara goes, and not one of us ever said that your relationship was fake. And Heather goes, no, it was about the proposal based on what you had told me on camera. And we flash back to 2013 when Gretchen proposed to Slade in that scene where Gretchen asks him to marry her. And Gretchen says, that was a very real moment for me to be there, getting engaged to the man I loved after his son had just been in the hospital and was told that he was going to die. I wanted to show that man how much I loved him. That's what that was about. And Andy goes, I always thought it was because you wanted to get married like on TV and then have Bravo pay for the wedding. And Gretchen says, no. Oh, come on. And Andy goes, so when do you think you'll be ready? And Gretchen's like, I'm ready whenever. I mean, I just don't think that's something that we wake up every day talking about. And Heather goes, you have a child together. That's the biggest commitment of all. And Gretchen's like, exactly, what were you going to? And Tamara goes, but in God's eyes, don't you think you should be married? I need to go back and rewatch that Tamara season when she got baptized. And Jen goes, she is married in God's eyes, Tamara. They had a ceremony. And Gretchen's like, yeah, a few years ago, we actually got married with an ordained pastor. And Annie's like, oh, you did? You're married. And we see a picture of this. And Gretchen's like, yeah, well, we didn't go down to the courthouse and get legal paperwork. And this was in 2022. And Annie goes, you had the ceremony. And Gretchen's like, yeah, we did the ceremony. And Skylar was there, and it was very special for us. And Andy goes, Riley from Macon, Georgia said, Gretchen, you mentioned several times during Heather's sleepover how Fireball gets you wild. Were you looking for liquid courage to bring up the rumor? And Gretchen's like, no, I had no intent of bringing that up. And Andy goes, this person referred to in the affair rumor whose identity we have not disclosed, the guy from 98 Degrees. Come on, we can all just say it at this point. But Andy says, this guy vehemently and insists that it is a complete fabrication. And Tamara just kind of shakes her head. Yep. And Heather goes, this was not a premeditated thing. This was and Tamara goes, bullshit. And I got to agree with Tamara on this. And Gretchen's like, da-da-da. And Tamara's like, I'm not talking to you. And Shannon's like, well, I am going to talk to you. And then Tamara goes, no. And Shannon's like, this is part of the process, girl. And Tamara's like, no, let me finish this, girl. And Shannon's like, I don't know why she has such a hard-on for me. And Gretchen's like, it's so weird. I agree with Gretchen on this again. And then Shannon kind of makes a face in frustration, and Tamara parrots it back, but doubles it and goes, it's so gross. By the way, tonight, I saw online Vanderpump Rules Party posted this, that I think Tamara threw a OC reunion watching party. It wasn't official, but Katie Janela was there, Alexis Bellino and John Jansen were there, all heavy hitters. But, not Shannon and I don't know, man. I don't know. But I got to tell you, I'm just really tired of the faces. And also, why? I mean, I don't think Tamara had a good show. Even if you're a Tamara fan, I don't think you can say this was a good showing from Tamara. Tamara, did everything that she shouldn't. I would have advised Tamara to go in just completely cool. Cool as a cucumber. Don't go this hard in the paint this early. It just really does make me think it's a behavioral issue that she can't control it, because she should have come in just cool as a cucumber. And remember, when they filmed this, they did not, except for Shannon, Jen Pedranti, and Gina, know about this pickup scene. They're going to make them all watch that together. So Tamara didn't know this last scene happened. They surprised Tamara with this. So Tamara didn't even know about this last scene yet, right? Anyways, Tamara says, Gretchen tried to bring this song out at Vicky's house. And then he's like, when? And Tamara goes, the night that she called, is Eddie gay? And we flash back to 2000. Wait, what year was this? One sec. It was the year 2017 when some guy said he saw Eddie making out with a guy. And Tamara's like, that night. And Gretchen's like, when was that conversation happened at that party? And Tamara goes, oh, God. And Andy goes, okay, years ago. Okay. And he goes, I want to move on. Emily Jonah in Providence, Rhode Island said, why would you bring up the rumor to Tamara when Gretchen asked you not to? And Emily goes, I was really irritated by the fact that we had just been at the beach and sand was everywhere and all of our crevices. No, Emily goes, and they had a conversation and they both came back to the table holding hands, agreed to a truce. And I was really hopeful, And Tamara goes, I know, I was. And Tamara goes, and we didn't say one word about Gretchen. One word in Temecula. And Gretchen says, can I talk to that though? And Shannon goes, she apologized. And Gretchen's like, I do agree with them on that. And I want to apologize to you for doing that, Tamra. But I'm just telling you that was part of what was out in the press, and that's the problem. Sometimes I have with you is you go, if it's out in the press, then it's true, and I'm going to bring it up on camera. So you're always allowed to say that and do that. But if everybody else does it, then we're like assholes. Gretchen makes a very solid point here. Tamra does this all the time. She's allowed to do it, but nobody else is allowed to do it. And Tamra goes, always turns it around on somebody else. That's what maybe they're just all looking in a mirror. Like Gretchen and Tamra are the same person, just different wardrobes, but they both do the same thing. They turn it around on everybody. Like, what are you talking about? Is Tamra just pissed somebody has her secret recipe? Andy says, Tamra, Nolan in San Antonio wants to know, why are you overreacting about this rumor when it was from so long ago? Don't you also bring up old dirt on people? I love that Andy had this question, this person from San Antonio bring up the dirt. And Tamra goes, what have I brought up recently? And Shannon goes, you accused Jen of having an affair. And Andy goes, well, you brought up tonight that Shannon recorded Vicky. And Tamra goes, yeah, because she's going after Katie about it when she's done the same thing. That's being a hypocrite. And Shannon goes, you know what my intent was? To make sure everybody's safe. And Andy goes, you made that clear. And then Tamra goes, oh, Shannon, then why did you call me and tell me who the hell would be with Vicky? She treats her boyfriend like shit. And Shannon goes, I didn't say that, Tamra. I didn't say that. And Andy goes, Tamra, you just proved the point of the question. And Tamra goes, that was 2 years ago. And Andy goes, no, I understand. But the point of the question was you bring stuff up all the time. And Tamra goes, I have, yeah. And Andy goes, and you just brought up 2 things. You just did it. And Shannon goes, yeah. And then Tamra goes, Shannon, shut up. And then Shannon goes, no, I don't. You need to stop speaking to me that way. And then Tamra's making fun of the way Shannon, moves her hands around her face. And Tamra goes, every time I'm trying to prove a point. And Emily goes, Andy, you did a good job proving it. And Andy goes, thank you. But it's just, they see, this is what I'm saying. They all realize Tamra does this shit, but by some magic or fear, they just don't really go in and be like, you got to stop this shit. And Gretchen says, we're not the only ones to bring up stuff from the past. She does too. And Tamra's turning to Gina because Gina's like, stop. And Tamra goes, I am coming from a place of kindness. And Gina goes, yeah, I understand, but you continue to do that, though. Don't let anybody else affect how you continue to do that. Gina, don't give her your answers on the exam. And Tamra goes, I am sick of it. And Jen Pedronti goes, when we were at your house for cake decorating, you threw out again that I've had all these affairs. And then we went outside, you said, oh my God, I was mad and I probably made it up. And Shannon goes, you poked me, I was mad. And Tamra goes, I didn't make it up, but it was something I heard. Tamra's got the best hearing ever. And Tamra goes, yeah, I regret saying that. But that conversation we were having at the table was getting really heated. And Shannon goes, but it's pure hypocrisy. And then Tamra goes, I'm not talking to you. And Gretchen goes, oh my God. And she goes, God. And she goes, who do you think you are? Honestly. And she goes, I don't listen to anything she says. And then Emily goes, yeah, but didn't you have pictures at the cake party of her having some affair in regards to Tamra, talking about Gretchen? And we cut to Gretchen showing pictures on her phone of Gretchen. And Tamra's like, here it is again. And Shannon's like, Tamra, you show up with evidence. Every single time we're together. You got your videos. You got your photos. And Tamra in the reunion says, because I've had it at that point. I've had it. And Gretchen's like, did you have it at that point when I did it when you brought it up at the very beginning? I don't know what you're talking. No, Tamra says, I don't know what you're talking about. And Shannon, everybody's talking over each other. And Shannon's like, everyone just wave everybody off. Tamra waves everybody off. And Tamra goes, no, I'm just waving you off. And Gretchen's like, I'm talking about 15 years ago, Tamra, when you made up all the lies about me back then. And we flash back to 2009, and Tamara says, the night before we went to Del Mar, my cell phone rang, and it's a guy. And he says, it's Gretchen's boyfriend. I need to talk to her now. And Tamara's like, well, what was the reason in 2009? And Tamara says, I didn't make up any lies about you 15 years ago. And Gretchen's like, oh, okay, sure, you didn't. And Emily goes, it was the affair. And Tamara goes, yes, me and Vicky both walked in at Gina Keogh. I saw you sitting on Bleep's lap making out with him. And Gretchen's like, oh my God, you're such a fucking liar, Camille. And Tamara goes, you're a fucking liar. You're a fucking liar. You are a piece of shit. And Gretchen's like, okay, Tamara. And then Tamara goes, for so fucking long, you've been coming after me. You've been going after my husband, going after me. But you can say the same. Gretchen could say, you've been going after Slade. I mean, it's the same thing. And Tamara's like, going after my kids? I don't talk about you! And then Katie Janela says, this is insane. And that's where we end. Next week, it's part 2 of the Real Housewives of Orange County reunion. And Heather's saying, we're at 29 years, Terry and I. Reverse cowgirl. And Emily goes, now Shane asks for reverse cowgirl all the time now. Thanks a lot, Heather. And then Matt Janella's out there, Katie's husband. And Matt Janella says, calling people liars is rude. And Jen Pedranti says, you probably don't want to bring up the conversation that you had. And Gretchen says, oh, I'll go there. And Matt Janella is like, you want to get into it? And then Heather saying, every time I talk about my career on this show. And Gina's like, I understand that's a sensitive moment for you. And Heather says, it makes me not want to open up about my improvisational skills. And then Jen Pedranti says, I'm in the same seat you are in, Katie. So I fucked with, Katie Janela goes, so I fucked with your paycheck? And Jen says, I didn't fuck with your paycheck. And then Jen Pedranti says, I was your friend. And that's it. Part 2 of the reunion. So it looks like part 3 will be the exciting part where they bring out that footage where Tamara gets called out. So that is it, folks. God, that made me angry. God, that's a horrible way to start the weekend, but I hope we had fun together, and I hope you're about to go do something fun with your weekend. Eat something good, drink something great, tell people you love them, watch something good, maybe not reality television. It's breaking our brains, folks, and that's what we do during the week. And come back on Monday for an all-new Pop Culture Roundup. We'll be doing Patreon episodes this weekend. I did some Patreon interviews. We're going to do the Real Housewives of Salt Lake City reunion, and we're going to start Season 2 of RHOC. Season 2 of RHOC. We're going to recap the first episode, Season 2, Episode 1. Have a great flippin' Friday, folks, and I love you. Bye.